in real time. I'm the Director of Business Development over here. And today we've got Mike Milan with Finagraph. He's going to present on the 5 silent cash flow killers of business. And I just want to talk a little bit about Mike, who I've known for not too long now, but he's just a great guy, a lot of fun to hang around. And Finagraph is a really close partner to Cloud9. A little bit of background about Mike. He's the Senior VP of Business Development with Finagraph, and he's got years and years of entrepreneurial experience in his own business ventures. And really his personal experience and involvement in the community combined with an MBA from Baylor really makes him a really powerful and impressive person in business, and really someone you got to get to know. So without further ado, here's Mike with Finagraph, and thanks again for your time.
Hey, Dave, thank you. Good morning, everyone. You actually made me sound like I'm somebody fun to be around, Dave. my teenage daughters, I think it depends on what week. I'm either fun or I'm not fun. So I think we've all probably been there in the past, but I really appreciate that. And I tell you what, lately what we've been doing at Finagraph is we've been going around the country for the last, before I got here, 15 years. We teach at banking schools. We do business owner seminars around the country. And basically what our focus is learning how to turn a ratio, those things that we hate to do, all of that math, into an action. So how do you translate a complex, scenario into an action for a small business owner, so he can improve his business and make more money? I think that's what we're all trying to do. So what we're going to focus on today specifically is the 5 silent cash flows of killers, or cash flow killers in a business. And what we're talking about is things like misfinancing, which is very difficult, and we'll go over that pretty slowly. Inventory management, expense control, accounts payable, accounts receivable. That's kind of what we're going to be talking about, and how these things slowly suck cash out of your business where they've crept up on you, right? I mean, they're things that happen. They just kind of creep up over time. I don't think anybody ever intends to have a leak in their boat, but when you notice it, we want to be able to take action and fix that and keep some of that money for ourselves. So I think before I begin, Dave, why don't we throw up our first poll question today? And basically what we're going to do is, where do we find misfinancing? The first thing I'm going to look at is misfinancing today. So you want to throw up that poll question, Dave?
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and launch that right now, Mike.
Okay. All right, so the first poll question, what we're doing is looking for misfinancing. So where do I find it? No one ever goes out into their business and wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to misfinance my company today. I don't think that's ever any of our intention. I'm trying to figure out how to do the slide. There we go. All right. But here's what happens. 60% of all small businesses in the country right now are misfinanced. And people say, I don't know what that means even. What is misfinancing? How do I know if it happens? How do I know if it exists? Well, basically what we're saying is that you've accidentally or even intentionally for a short-term purpose bought some type of long-term asset and used short-term money. Okay, so when we talk about the differences, and you probably see these on your balance sheet, you've got short-term debt such as credit cards or lines of credit, and you've got long-term debt, which is more of your mortgages or your auto loans and things like that. And short-term lines of credit and credit cards are very useful, but what they're useful for is to smooth out that variable income or expenses, right? When you have seasonality in your business, when you're talking about maybe not meeting expenses because sales are down in the wintertime because you're a summertime business, your line of credit helps smooth that out over the course of the year. They're also
Mike,
useful. Yeah,
Mike,
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to share the poll real quick. So do you see that on your screen? So it looks like we got most of the votes in. Looks like the majority of folks, 73%, answered balance sheet.
You know what? They're right. That's exactly where you're going to find it at, is on the balance sheet. And let's talk about that, because it's a mathematical equation about where do you find that. And I'm going to draw it up there, because where you find misfinancing is a mathematical equation and you're looking for year over year or period over period changes. So let's just consider year over year. You're going to take your gross fixed assets, and hopefully I can, whoops.
I'm going to go ahead and hide that, hide the results there. Yeah, I can see your slide fine.
Okay, I'm trying to get on my pen so I can just kind of draw up the, okay. So we're going to look for the change or the delta in gross fixed assets, and that has to equal the change or the delta in either your long-term debt and the change in your retained earnings. So what you're doing is trying to match up, did I buy something with short-term money that's a long-term asset? And a ridiculous example, of course, is I went out with my credit card and I bought a car. And that's something that, when you're talking about short-term debt, you want to match the useful life of an asset and say that you're going to depreciate a vehicle, 3-5 years out. You want to match the term of your loan to that. And people say, well, why is that misfinancing? How is that different? Well, it's because different loan products are set up to charge you different interest rates based on the risk that's assumed by the lender. So your credit card, which may be at 12, 13, 14% interest, or your auto loan, which may be at 0 to 5% interest, you can see that there's a leak in cash coming out every month. You're making your payments, so you don't feel like there's any strain, but there's 7, 10, 15% interest that's coming out over the top that you may not need to be paying. So it's considered a silent killer of the business because it's stealing cash away from you that you could use for other things. So I'm glad that everybody got that balance sheet, but it's difficult to look. So you're going to be looking at both the top end and the bottom end because the balance sheet must balance. Look at the change in gross fixed assets on the top, and then you must find a change in either long-term debt or retained earnings on the bottom. If you can't make those two balance, there's a possibility that you've misfinanced your company. And again, 60% of the companies out there are misfinanced. So, excuse me. So before we go into the next one, which is inventory management, Dave, let's do another poll and talk about the other expenses around inventory.
You got it, Mike. So I just put it up there on the screen.
Okay. And you've already got the other, and for whatever reason, I can't see the poll question, so it must be because I'm the presenter.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why that is. So the question is, how much should you allow for inventory carrying costs?
Great.
And the first option is 3 to 12%. The next one is 24 to 48%, and the next and final is 65 to 83%.
Got it. And just kind of a refresher on carrying cost. Carrying costs are those expenses that you have in addition to purchasing your inventory. So if you're paying for lights or you're paying for storage space, or restaurants might have cooling expenses for some of their inventory, their foodstuffs that are in their walk-in cooler. So those are carrying costs, and there's a cost that's associated with that you should also be accounting for. But what we want to talk about is not necessarily the carrying cost. That's something that you should be aware of, but we're talking about some of the biggest ways that you can lose money with your inventory. Now, the biggest two reasons are I've ordered too much or I've ordered too little, which means, hey, I've got so much inventory that it never turns over. And I've dealt with companies like Walgreens and Walmart and Costco in the past, and they want to see that inventory turn. So if you have a product that you want to introduce that will say Walgreens, and maybe it's a candy bar that you want on the shelf, and you want it right up there by the cash wrap or the cash register, they're going to be looking for about a 12 times turn, which means if I put one box up on the shelf, I need to be moving a new box in there every single month. That's 12 times, one time a month. So the other thing is ordering too little. Now this is where people are trying to manage their cash. They're trying to not order the materials to put on their shelf, which kind of frustrates customers, right? It's not available. They go to your store for certain products or certain services, and not necessarily services, but certain products you may have on your shelf. And if it's not there, they're going to start shopping at your competitors who may have a better selection. So you could have too much or too little. Too much is cash that you've put on the shelf that you can't use in your business. That's how it's sucking the cash out, is that you've put it in the business. And I used to deal with a paint manufacturer, and when I would tell this to him, one of the things he would say is my wife hiding money in the paint cans again? So, and that's not exactly what I meant. It was by putting cash on the shelf. It was actually the excess inventory. So, a little story I want to tell you is about Wasilla, Alaska. There's a tire dealer up there that we were working with. And I'm in Seattle, so I mean this northwest corner is kind of where we work a lot. But Wasilla, Alaska, guy was having some cash flow problems, and he invited us up to help. And on a tire dealer, I mean, one of the things he wants to do is, hey, you guys want to take a tour, look at our warehouse, see what's going on. Well, I mean, tires are great. They're fun to look at, I guess. But the ones that attracted my attention were the ones that stood higher than I am. You know, and I'm 6 foot tall, but they're these huge tractor tires that stand higher than I am. And I just started counting them. You know, 1, 2, 10, got up to 16 tractor tires sitting on, you know, the bottom shelf of his warehouse. And I just happened to ask him, I said, well, how many of those tractor tires do you sell a year? And his answer was, I don't know, 1 or 2. So here was a guy that for the last 5 to 10 years had only sold 1 or 2 of the largest tractor tire they make, but kept 16 of them on the shelf. And you can imagine if you bought tires, what kind of funds that takes to manage that type of inventory. So, you know, when I questioned him about having that much inventory on the shelf and what it was doing to cash, he said, listen, there might be a run on them. I need to have them. So business owners tend to fall in love with their inventory and say, look at all this inventory. Isn't it great? And they want to make sure that they have everything on the shelf. But you also have to match that up to the buying habits or the buying behavior of the people you're doing business with. If historically you've done 1 or 2 a year, you know, or maybe somebody can wait, you know, a month until you get another one in, let's cut that inventory back. Put that cash that you spent on tires to put on the shelf, put that back into your cash flow to improve it. So, so that's, go ahead, Dave.
That's a great point. And I just wanted to share the poll if you're interested, Mike. Can I share that on the screen here and see how everyone answered that one?
Yeah, let's go through that, and then we'll throw up the next one.
So how much should you allow for inventory carrying costs? Looks like the majority, as you can see, voted 3 to 12%. And that sounds about right to me.
That's a little low.
Oh.
It's actually, the average is around 25%.
Wow.
So the answer is, you know, we always tell people to adjust, you know, to about 25% as the carrying cost when they're looking at the ways. And if you look at it, think about rent in a warehouse. Think about the utilities. Think about the heat. Think about the lights. Think about, you know, if you have inventory managers that manage the inventory and work in there. There's a lot of other costs that are associated with having inventory that if you didn't have inventory, you wouldn't have those costs. Does that make sense?
Interesting. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and close that.
Why don't you throw up the next one? We're talking about the, according to the SBA, what percentage of businesses are profitable? That's always a good one to debate, is what is profitable and how many of these small businesses in the U.S. right now are profitable.
Okay, I just put that on the screen, Mike.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'll just move through, and we're going to move right to everyone's favorite, expense control. You know, if you've ever run a business, you know, there's 2 different things that happen with expenses. You know, one is that when things are going great, when you're having just you know, everything is going your way, you've got lots of sales, you become kind of Santa Claus, right? You're giving people, you know, the bonuses, and you're increasing salaries, and, you know, maybe buying the iPads for them when they didn't use them before. I mean, there's things that you start to do in your business that expenses tend to creep up. During downturns, you know, you have to also match that downturn. Right? You have to also bring your expenses back down. So if you've taken on some subscriptions, if you've done some things, like carrying extra people that maybe you don't need when business turns down, now you can always carry that staff all the way through. And a great story I've got that is a friend of mine is a builder. And in 2002, 2003, he had about 6, 7, 8 houses going. And by 2005, he had almost 35 houses, that he was building at one time. And I think, Dave, do you remember what happened 2007, 2008, in the construction business?
No, it was, yeah, I mean, even in my neighborhood, which is a newish neighborhood in that time, they're promising, the whole community is going to be built out in a year or two. And literally, and I live in San Diego, and literally for 3 years, the lots, we had open lots behind us and on the side, they sat vacant for 3 years during that time. It was great because we had this great view of the mountains on either side, but it made us wonder, shoot, is this ever going to turn around? Yeah, I distinctly remember it.
Yeah, great statement right there. Is this ever going to turn around? Because in 2005-ish, right when he was at the height, he built this house in St. Louis, and I was living in St. Louis at the time, and a $1.5 million home in St. Louis. I don't know if you've ever been there, Dave, but that's a loud house, right? That's a heck of a house in St. Louis. So, yeah. And I was envious, right? I mean, I loved going over there. He had all the greatest, all the latest. I mean, the pool, he had a putting green, awesome view. I mean, everything that you would want in a house, he had. But he asked me, he said, hey, listen, things are starting to tighten up around here. What do you suggest? And I said, well, you're carrying, 10-plus crews at this point in time. As things start to scale back, what are you going to do differently? He says, you know what? I've been through these before. I've been through little downturns before. I'm going to hold, right? I'm going to hold my crews. I'm going to try to keep them working as much as I can, keep them paid. That way I keep trained people on my payroll for when it pops back, we're rocking and rolling, ready to hit the ground running. Well, just like you said, is this ever going to turn around? By 2008, right. Almost 2009, $1.5 million house in St. Louis sold for $485,000.
Wow. Yeah.
Where he had, taken his business decision to carry expenses through the downturn, and just wasn't able to do it. Where it personally cost him a fortune. So, but this is the first place, Dave, that people look to find money. I had 3 restaurants in St. Louis at the time, and there were restaurants during that time period that were closing all around me. And people were doing this. They were going and, pulling money out of their expenses. They're saying, we're going to cut here, we're going to cut there. But when you cut expenses, make sure you're cutting the things that don't impact your traffic or your sales, such as in a restaurant or a bar, entertainment, right? Mm-hmm. You've got bands that are coming in. You've got different specials. You might have different events that are happening throughout the month. Those are the activities that are driving traffic to your business. When you cut those, you also cut your traffic. Yeah, make sense?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Now, do you want me to share the poll and see what people said on this one?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, where are we at there?
Okay, so here I just put on the screen. So according to SBA, what percentage of small businesses are profitable? So most people said 40%, 64% said 40%. Looks like 29% said 10%, and 7% said 65%.
Got it. So the crowd is right. The crowd is right now. So, and there's various reasons for that. Some people, especially when you're in smaller companies and you're operating as an S corp instead of the C corp, the way that you deal with either distributions or personal expenses through the company are different. But right now, according to the SBA, the 40% of businesses are profitable. Now, what I think this group should be challenged to do is move that number forward, right? Move that number up. You know, that's part of what we're trying to do in these educational series that we put on around the country is how do I put tools in your hand as a business owner to help you make more money? Because as the lifeblood of the economy, the small business owner, we want to make sure they're the strongest because they're going to promote the most jobs, they're going to put the most money back into the economy. So that's kind of the reason why we're doing what we're doing is to help small business. So how about that last poll question, Dave, where, you know, can you be profitable and broke at the same time? And this is a simple yes, no.
Okay, it's on the screen now, Mike.
Okay, good. Now, while people are kind of answering that, can you be profitable and broke at the same time? Let's talk about accounts payable and accounts receivable, right? You know, these are the two key components of cash management cycle. You know, how long does it take for your business to get $1 back? And let me, you know, we've got this kind of circle drawn up for them. But in this case, you take cash and you buy inventory with it, right? So you buy some inventory and you take, we'll say $1 out, you buy a piece of inventory, you put it on the shelf. That takes a little bit of time. The next period of time is it's on my shelf until I sell it. So that's your inventory days, right? Where, you know, I don't know how many you have, but let's just say you have 90 days of inventory on your shelf. That means that I've taken $1 out of my bank account and let somebody else use it, or it sits in an asset on my shelf for 90 days. When I sell it, the next time starts, right? How long does it take me to collect on an invoice? If I'm not a cash business, you know, it'll be zero if you're in a cash business. But if I'm, you know, allowing credit out to my customers, how much time does it take me to get that money back? So let's just assume that your receivable is around 45 days. And I apologize for my handwriting. Really, I'm better than that. This surface is a little awkward today. So we got 90 days plus 45 days cash out of your pocket before it comes back to you. But what happens in the meantime, you know, Dave, is that you get these bills in. You get the electric bill, and you get, you know, rent coming to it. You get all these things coming in, right? You have to assume. Go ahead.
I was going to say in San Diego, I don't know if anyone's been paying attention to what's going on in California, but water, right? Water is such a costly thing for us, and you probably noticed that there has been droughts in California, but you know, that's the biggest utility cost I see at home. I imagine businesses, small, medium businesses, all business sizes are seeing their water bills go through the roof right now.
Oh man, I can imagine. Yeah, what was it? Is it up in Sandy, or was it L.A. or San Francisco? Who's got the water salinization plant that they're getting ready to restart?
Yeah, there's one going on again, and actually in Oceanside, which is between Orange County and San Diego.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So what we're talking about is I'm waiting for my money to come in, but I still have people to pay. And let's just say we're all great payers, right? We're paying everything within, you know, either on receipt or at least within 35 days. Well, we can already tell there's a gap, right? So we've got 135 days it takes me to get money, but I'm paying in 35 days. So that leaves me a deficit of 100 days. Now, if you want to know how much you should have on your line of credit, it's enough to cover 100 days worth of cash flow, right? So when you still have expenses, or you still have things that are coming in, that's how you determine how much money you should have in your line of credit. So I need 100 days, and let's just say that I have, you know, $1 million in sales. $1 million in sales equals about $3,000 a day in sales. So then I would take 3,000 times 100, which makes it $300,000 on my line of credit. Now, normally during our 2-day seminar, I spend about 30 minutes going over this concept alone. But just what I want this audience to know is that however long it takes you to get your money, you have to also balance it with how long it takes you to pay, right? And the difference between the two is what's called a cash flow gap or the financial gap. And that's what you need to either have in working capital or in a line of credit that then you can make sure that you can smooth out your expenses over the course of the year. All right. In the first slide, we talked about a short-term debt or line of credit is used to smooth out your income and expenses. This is how you determine how much you should have. Hey, had you ever heard that, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of folks I talk to. They're like going, I just kind of lick my thumb and put it in the air and say, hey, I need about 100,000. Well, yeah. You don't want to catch yourself short or have too much, that you don't need.
Yeah, this is valuable, right? I mean, I say, oh yeah, in the sense that, yeah, there's kind of an intuitive number I think small business owners have, and having worked with a lot of small businesses, I've heard that. But yeah, I've never known of a particular formula like this, and that really makes sense.
Well, good. Now, if you look at this is a wheel, right? So if you need to improve the amount of cash that's in your business, just make the wheel spin faster. Reduce your days of inventory that are on your shelf. Try to collect a little bit faster, or stretch your payables out just a little bit. Now, there's a balance there because, you could make your vendors mad or not be able to take advantage of discounts. Or from a customer standpoint, if you're more aggressive than maybe your competitors, they might just move. Your customers might say, hey, listen, they give me 30 days terms next door. Your aggressive collection might also impact your sales. So there's a good balance, and people don't know where that balance is. I say start at the inventory or the industry average, right? If you know what your competitors are collecting in or what they're paying in, then you should be, at least to start with, measuring yourself against the average and then making improvements off that. And you want to put up the poll results?
Yeah, let me put those up right now.
Here?
Yeah, let me put those up right now. Can you make a profit and be broke?
And the answer is?
Yeah, it was unanimous. Yes, is what everyone answered. So.
Well, I tell you, I mean, that's probably an intuitive one. That's probably one that people already know. But it's exactly right. I don't know how many times I've talked to managers that used to work for me. They go, hey, wait a second. We should have all this money because I made, $100,000 last month on my profit and loss statement or my income statement. Well, we don't get that money if we're collecting in 45 days until a month and a half later, right? So, it takes a little while for the cash to catch up. Even though you've made it on paper, you don't have the cash in your pocket. So, yes, you can be profitable and broke at the same time. So good. Let's just talk about the last thing. And what I want to do is shameless plug for my company. I do work for Finagraph, and all the things that we talked about today, Dave, are instantly done by Finagraph, right? With the click of a button, we're connecting with accounting systems and doing this analysis for you. And I circled a few things. Here's all of the silent killers we're going to look for, for you instantly. And then also tell you with a red flag or a green check mark how you're doing. What I'd like to invite everybody to do, if they haven't, looked at Finagraph before, maybe you can put up a live link in chat, Dave, to finagraph.com/signup. Just go do a free trial, run it on your company, and see how you stack up. If you notice, I circled misfinancing. This company in particular, well, in the sample, has a green check mark. Your company might have that flag, which indicates you should go look at the balance sheet a little bit closer. So, invite you to a free trial. It's 14 days free trial. Anybody like to sign up this week? I'm going to give this crowd a code, and the code is Cloud50, and that's 50% off the subscription price if you subscribe to Finagraph by the end of the week, and that's for your participation here on the Cloud Talk or Cloud9 Real-Time webinar. So what I want to do is turn it over to Dave and thank him for allowing me to come in here and just kind of bloviate, I guess, and share some experience, right? Share some experience. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
This is great. Yeah, thanks so much, Mike. I think everyone probably got something out of this. This is really helpful, and I put the Finagraph, so it's finagraph.com/sign up if you have interest in getting that evaluation. And the promo code is Cloud50 if you want to get a 50% discount on sign up for Finagraph. So I want to check that out. And thanks again, Mike. And then just real quick, a little bit about Cloud9. We do have a summit. It's really for users and also people interested in potentially moving to the cloud in August. So it's coming up in San Diego in August. It's a warm time of the year in San Diego. It'd be great to get you down here if you have interest in learning more about the cloud. We have different tracks, as you see there, CFO, we've got a technology track, we've got a practice management track, and then we have a social media marketing. It's really sales and marketing for accounting firms and small businesses. So if you're interested, you can go to that URL there on our slide, and you can RSVP for the event. And I hope to see you out there, and want to thank Mike again and everyone for attending. And if you have interest in getting the slides, you can email me, driggins@cloud9realtime.com, and I'll put that up on the chat as well. Or you can get that, I think, from Mike. I think it's Mike@finagraph.com.
Yep,
so
that's right.
No.
If I remember right, Dave, you're going to put a recording of this for anybody that's missed or want to kind of review it up, and we'll link to it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it is recorded today, so we will repurpose this on our website, and so will Finagraph. And so yeah, so if you miss this or you want to have colleagues hear what was covered, we'll have that on the recording.
That's great, Dave. Thank you very much, and
yeah.
Thanks to your group.
Thank you, Mike. All right, take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.